So this is my first UKNOF meeting, and I've really enjoyed it. So thank you very much for inviting me. I like the festival Wi-Fi and the barn fibre rollout, so that was great. It's jumping ahead, hang on. So my name's Kieren McCarthy. I'm a non-exec director at Nominet. I was put on the board by Nominet members. I was just wondering how many Nominet members are there here, so I can sort of get a gauge. Oh, chunk you. Not Nominet members over there? Okay. And then how many Nominet members did you vote in the, or do you tend to vote, or did you vote in the election? Okay. So I'm here to give you an update of what's going on. Nominet, hopefully you're aware that Nominet runs .uk. Is that a yes? Okay, good. Okay, we're on the same ballpark. So there was an EGM in 2021 that led to very significant changes. If you want, we can talk about that later. There's now an all-new board, an entirely new board. And there's a new CEO, there's a new CFO, there's a new CTO. So pretty significant shift in where Nominet is and how decisions are being made. Currently what's going on, which I think will probably be most interest you, there's a very big tech refresh update of all of Nominet systems, which should add a lot of extra capacity and into .uk, and that should enable it to expand going forward. And we're also, which is a sort of behind-the-scenes thing, revamping the finance function, which, if any of you run larger organizations, you realize that it's kind of vital to get the finance working, and enables you to see what's going on in the rest of the organization. Nominet is currently focused heavily on the DNS and its registry services, which is part of what the EGM was about. People felt that the organization was spending too much time not on its core mission. It is now absolutely focused on its core mission, which is registry and DNS. So what's next? Strengthening of that .uk registry. With more focus comes improvements. Part of that, of course, is the tech refresh. Make it faster, make it better, make it more expandable. Should be up there with the best that's out there on the internet. Improve communications. That's sort of where I come in. I've been a journalist most of my life, and I ended up on the Nominet board because I was writing about Nominet quite a lot. And so improved comms is on the way, which if you are a Nominet member, you'll realize has not been the thing that Nominet's been most renowned for. A clear vision and purpose. That is, you should have seen elements of that coming down the line. The chair and the board have been pretty clear. They're making clearer statements. There should be a pretty good vision as to what Nominet's going to do and how it's going to do it and what the reason is that it does it, which I think will be very much in fitting with the technical community. And then better member engagement, which is why I'm here. If you are a member, then we want to talk to you more, and we definitely want more information from you. There's not been enough of that that's happened in the last decade, I would say. So there's a lot to be gained by us talking to you and by you talking to us. In fact, it shouldn't really be you and us at all. It should just be the internet community. So that's where we're trying to get to. And then a sharper focus on the future, where we can go, what we can do with .uk. And of course, if you are a member of the internet community in the UK, then we should all be working together. What are we working on? This is my little model. I like it. I came up with it. This is in my head. This isn't officially sanctioned colors or anything. This is just Kieren's model. Trust. There is and there remains a significant trust problem between Nominet and its members that we can talk about if you wish, and it needs rebuilding. We are fundamentally, acutely aware it needs rebuilding, and that's what we're working on. And the way that's currently being tackled is through just continual improvement, making good decisions, continuing to make things work better, and then hope that will feed through. I mean, most of the time, if you want .uk to run well, that's the deal. That's what Nominet does. On some levels, the more invisible we are, the better that is. The issue we have is there is a determined opposition stemming from a lot of history. There are people that literally anything we do will look at it in terms of what are you up to now. We know we have to sort of push through that. It's pretty determined. It can sometimes be a little frustrating if I'm being frank, but I understand exactly where it's coming from. And that it's a cultural issue fundamentally. I mean, if you look at the decisions that have been made for the last year and a half, 2 years. They've all been very good decisions, and I haven't seen any that have been bad decisions. But it's a cultural issue, and it's going to take years to unravel, and that makes it difficult, as cultural issues always do. What is the culture? The truth is, it's pretty disengaged. There's a whole conversation about, oh, well, people shouldn't be that engaged in Nominet. I don't agree with that at all. I think we should be engaged. It's a fundamental piece of infrastructure in this country, and it does interesting work. It has a pretty big market around it. It goes from all the way down at the infrastructure level up to the selling to domain names to consumers. So I think there should be quite a lot of engagement going on. And the fact that there isn't, I think, is a problem. Bomb bunker is I was talking about the difficult culture we have right now. Is it mostly comprises, apart from the sort of everyday work, comprises of bombs being lobbed. It feels, sort of there's an issue, and a bomb is lobbed over, and that has led, frankly, to a little bit of a bunker mentality. People know what I mean by bunker mentality. Sort of, I'm sure you've been there. You work into the infrastructure. You've sort of bunkered down. You do the best job that you can while it's exploding all around you. The saving grace, of course, is that the registry itself runs and has always run and continues to run really well. I mean, the number of complaints that we've got on the actual functioning of .uk are minimal. It works really well, which is the real saving grace, frankly. The goal with our culture is to shift it from one that is currently a little adversarial to one that's collegial. We're all basically understand, we're all working together in the same goals, and work towards them, and then find some shared goals and work together. That's the plan. I think a key component of that is innovation. The truth is that the DNS, the domain name market, has been a pretty static market for a while, and so there's not been a lot of innovation. Maybe you feel differently, but that's how I see it from where I've been. But I do think that's changing. Security has become a bigger and bigger issue, and there's lots that needs to be done with that, as I'm sure you're more than aware, more than me. There's new domains are being used differently. There's all kinds of possible shifts coming along, using domains as digital IDs, using domains as, I nearly said AI. I'm not going to say AI. But the whole market is shifting. The whole market's consolidating. So there's a lot of movement going on, and there's a lot of space for innovation. And so the goal should be and will be that the UK can become the source of new ideas and new markets. It's quite an exciting time coming the next 5-10 years, I would say. And the goal is to put Nominet in the middle of that and use our expertise, use our funds to move that along a bit. And then comms continue to be very cautious. You may have seen a slight improvement with the communications that go out. You won't have done if you're not a member. You won't have seen anything if you're not a member, unless you, for some reason, decide to pop onto the Nominet website, which seems unlikely. Why is it cautious? The truth is it's under severe scrutiny. Anything that is put out is seen from the perspective of what are you trying to get away with now? And that's because of the history. But it is pretty hard to do comms if every word is scrutinized. You tend to find it hard to relax. So we're working on that. The reason why comms is vital, of course, is that it signals a cultural change. If you're suddenly more open, if you're genuine when you're saying to people, hey, what do you think of this, rather than simply saying it because you feel you need to, people can feel that, and it can signal that something has shifted. And there's something has shifted, but I don't think it's coming across to people yet. And I say innovation is key because, frankly, most comms, if you're just ticking along and doing your job, most comms are quite dull. But with innovation comes a sort of an opportunity for interesting communication. Say, hey, have you seen what's happening here? This is how the market's changing. This is how the industry is changing. And that'll be, I think, make life much more interesting. So this is how I see it. My little model is, Nominet needs to be right in the middle of all that. They all interact with one another. Trust interacts with innovation, comms innovation, culture and trust. They're not separate issues. They all overlap with one another. And the goal is to stick Nominet right in the middle. So this is what we're doing right now. One of the reasons I'm here is we're having an articles consultation, which is going on right now. I don't know if you vote. Typically, Nominet's having an AGM, and I should know the date, but it's not in the top of my head right now. But voting is open on that, and one of the things we're doing apart from the usual things, is an articles consultation, which I'll come to with a second. The day-to-day stuff is this massive tech refresh. A lot of effort going into that. As you can imagine, it's pretty complicated technology behind .uk. Big refresh, should come out a lot better. And then the strategic thinking, which is sort of the board level stuff, is public benefit direction. I'll talk to that in a second. Rethinking how to do our communications and how we approach the future, .ukn and DNS in this country. So the articles consultation, which is why I sort of want to encourage anyone that is a member to take a look at it and to vote on it. The goal is to refresh the original articles, which were written in '96, I think, and I think Nigel probably wrote half of them. But they are, I mean, I think Nigel will admit, '96 was quite a long time ago. And so they need an update. And the truth is that they've got pretty complicated over time. And then, because there's been a lot of shift in corporate law, they've become outdated, dangerously outdated in some respects, because now they're a little bit legally ambiguous. When the law changes underneath you and you've still got old articles, this is very corporate stuff, but it's important, then you end up in a not great position. And they're not in a great thing. They're actually pretty hard to understand. So what we've done is we've sort of rewrote them from the perspective of how do we make these so that you can actually sit down and read them and make sense of it all. That's the goal, clarity, and to put in place a foundation for the future. It's going to be a lot harder to make future changes if you have to think through how you change the old articles. So that's the goal. And they'll be voted on at the AGM, usual members. We've got a very high 90% requirement approval rate, which is we recognise as a board is extremely difficult, but that's what we decided we're going to do. Seeing as you are talking about the articles, we should put the highest possible approval rate on that. So that's another reason I would like you to vote, and preferably in favour, to try and get to that 90%. And what is a sort of an indicator of the way that Nominet's changing is they're sticking in a new article. It's the only change, fundamental change. The rest of it is sort of cleaning, tidying up, which stresses public benefit. And in that case, I don't know whether you're aware of the sort of the controversy that there was around the purchase of an organisation called Siglass, and members reckoned that was way outside the remit of what Nominet should be doing. I agree. And I wrote some pretty strong articles about agreeing with that. And so there's this new article which will basically say, you can have a look at the wording, it will say if Nominet plans to step outside its current business activities that we all agree it's doing, then it will let members know in advance of making any decision. The idea, it's not a silver bullet, but the idea would be, because it's in the articles, any current board, and any future board will be required, before it does anything different, to go to the members, tell them about it, and justify it from the perspective of public benefit. So that is our effort to sort of make sure that Nominet stays on the right path in future. So that's our sort of one of the signs, I think, that things are changing and that we're trying to future-proof the way that Nominet works. The tech refresh it's a rebuild, update of all the core systems, and I'm not going to say how many there are because the CTO would be furious with me, but there's between 4 and 6, and they're varied, and some of them are fairly modern, some of them are literally dating back to when it was built. And the idea is to invest in the future of Nominet. I mean, we were listening to the massive rebuild of the fibre network. It's the same thing. It's complex, it's in the background. We don't talk about it much. If you wanted to talk about it, I'm sure the CTO would love nothing more than to talk to you about it. But I mean, most members are people that are buying and selling domain names. I don't think this interests them that much. If it does, we'll talk about it. And then public benefit, which is sort of the key financial component, is we've put a pause on new spending. We've got a lot of feedback, and I happen to agree with that feedback, that the money that Nominet was spending, which is millions. Nominet .uk is a pretty successful registry, and people tend to renew .uk domains, and so there's a chunk of money every year, millions and millions of pounds every year. And so it's being spent on stuff that Nominet previously thought was a good idea, and not many of those issues were technical projects. So I'm on the board, and I know the rest of the board believes that that money should be spent on things that are a little bit closer to Nominet's core work, the registry, internet technology. And the reason why I also want to flag to you, all of you, is I know, having spent years with in the ICANN world and IETF, not as much IETF, but ICANN for sure, I know how crucial small amounts of funding are to the underpinnings of the internet. And I know there's open source projects that people just, you know them. No one else outside the internet infrastructure industry really knows how the internet functions, and they don't know how these small, relatively small amounts of money are fundamental to keeping the internet growing and propagating. And so I would like to see Nominet spend some of the money not propping them up, supporting them, and making sure the internet can continue to grow and get stronger, and support for the internet infrastructure industry. So that's where we're going to be heading. And the reason I flagged that heavily to you all is that you all know the best projects for that. I'm not going to know. Nominet board's not going to know. You will probably know this open source project needs funding, it's crucial. So that's why I'm sort of saying this is why we need the engagement. I know that Nominet members will be able to say to us, these are the 5 projects that will be most useful to spend your money on. And that's kind of where the dialogue needs to go. And then we have to decide how we view public benefit, which is another way of saying, what should we spend the millions of pounds in excess revenue on? And what's the
UKNOF?
UKNOF is a good example, seriously. But then what's the philosophy behind it? We need to have a philosophy behind it. We need to say, well, this is why we spend the money on, and this is why. So that's what we're working on. An improvement in comms, and then improvement on the future of the .uk and of the DNS in this country. And so that's the conversation we're having. What are the main goals? How's the market changing? So on and so forth. So that's what's going on internally. And that's what I would like to reach out to the industry and have that conversation with you, because a board's only a collection of people. We're not all, all seeing, all knowing. We're just there to act as your representatives. And this is what's going on right now. Pretty busy month coming up. There's the election of the new non-executive director. One's going to be on. If you are a member, I strongly recommend you vote in that and read their statements and put someone else on the board. We have a board meeting, which is about broad strategy, and then there's the AGM itself, where all this is decided. And then we have another board strategy meeting in November about registry and pricing. And if I'm in a different context with domainers and domain registrars, they get very excited about pricing. I don't imagine pricing is quite as exciting to you all. Anyway, so that's the timetable. And so this is what I'd like to hear from you, how you think things are going. I don't know how much you track Nominet or whether you've given up on Nominet, but I'd love to know how you see it. If you have any questions over this articles consultation, now's the time. And if you have any ideas about how Nominet can help out, that would be terrific. Or, last one was like, is this presentation useful? Should I turn up again or send someone else to turn up again next year? Or you're like, no, we're good, thanks. So that's it, that's me. And if you want to get in contact, those are my details. Cheers.
Thank you very much. I'm Will Hargrave from the Laup Internet Exchange. We're not a member of Nominet. You're actually one of our members, you may not know that. A lot of this is music to my ears, actually. I'm very glad to hear it. At Laup, we like to put technology at the centre of what we do, and running technical infrastructure and telling people about it, as we saw from Ian today, is really important. And I'm really excited to see this from Nominet, and we would welcome more technical content from your technical people as that progresses. Of course, there may not be anything to report right now. So thank you, and thank you for coming. I'm afraid this wasn't really a question, but I just wanted to say thank you. Yeah.
Yes, I will repeat Will's comment. Thank you very much. It's really nice to see Nominet actually engaging with the community, and I think it's something that I think Nominet needs to do as part of this regaining the trust and things. So thank you for that. I did have a question though. I've read the stuff about the articles changes, and I'm generally pretty supportive. I've been pretty supportive of the new board and everything. But the one thing that stood out was the thing about the change of activities, and the way it's phrased is that Nominet will inform its members, not consult its members.
So we went back and forth on wording, as you can imagine. In fact, we had one form of wording, put it out to consultation, got back some comments, and did another form of wording. So fundamentally, the difference is it's a word, and it won't really make any difference. We could have said consult, and then people would have said, well, why are you using the word consult? I mean, the fundamental construct is, if Nominet wants to do anything new, it needs to go to its members in advance of making that decision and say to them, this is what we're going to do, and this is why we think it fits in with what Nominet's set up to do. So I understand what you're saying.
I think the key difference is, inform is you're just telling us that you're going to do it anyway, whereas consult is sort of saying, this is what we'd like to do, do you think that's a good idea?
Yeah.
And I think, yes, I think we're all pretty raw from what Nominet's done in the past.
Sure.
And I think it is that kind of, what are you trying to hide sort of thing, mentality.
Yeah.
So,
I hear you. I get it. But the intention, trust me, is fully there to add this thing in, saying, hopefully to try and bind future boards. This board's going to do this regardless. In fact, I don't think this board's going to do anything outside of really looking at the registry services anyway. So, but the idea was, how do you put something in place so that future boards feel obligated to go and talk to the members before they do anything new? So I hear you, but I don't think pragmatically it will make any difference one way or another.
Thank you.
The history. Olivier Crépin.
I haven't seen you for a few years.
It's been a while, and in different places.
Yeah.
So I'm with the UK chapter of the Internet Society. We're delighted to hear about the consultation, and of course, there's been such a history that's happened with Nominet, the ups and downs, and so on. The chapter has been following this for quite some time. In fact, I think that one of our key board members at the time was the person who wrote the initial bylaws, which Richard Francis from Manchester Solicitors. So he was key, and he did ours as well. So there you go. But the thing that you mentioned here, and I guess it's a normal thing. You're consulting with your members as such, but the UK Internet community is not just Nominet members.
No.
I think that it also includes, certainly network operators are key members of the Internet community as such.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to the users of the Internet, which some of which, not enough, but some of which are members of the UK chapter of the Internet Society, I think that they should also have their voice. And I do hope that Nominet will be, because I've looked at the questionnaire and it does ask you what's your membership number, etc. Yeah. I think it would be worth opening this up for a wider, I'm not saying a wider official consultation as such, but certainly accepting contributions from non-members, because I think if you really want to rebuild trust with the UK Internet community, I'm not going to use the word at large because that's a different thing, but the wider Internet community, then it would be worth looking at this and opening it up, basically.
Yeah, I think you're right. I would like to see more network operators for sure talking, and we should have a space or a better space for the average consumer. I'll see what I can do.
Right, there's a bunch of engagement and questions from online, from our remote attendees, but I've got a personal question. I genuinely am not trying to troll, right?
Okay.
But I'm asking this from ignorance.
Yeah, go on.
From my perspective, Nominet the guys who run .uk, that's what they do.
Yeah.
What are the things that aren't doing that you've been doing that you're moving away from? Because I wasn't aware you did other things.
Well, so...
I feel like I'm kicking a hornet's nest, but genuinely, all I knew you did was.
So the best way to summarise it is, I'm going to be careful here, is that .uk is extremely successful, and my argument would be it's successful because it took on a sort of market-leading innovation approach in the early days. Is that fair to say? And whereas a lot of other CCTLDs were quite clamped down and still are. .uk went for it and really had a really good sort of community here, and also had really quite groundbreaking software, was opened up, said we're going to be the best at this, and was the best at it for a long time. As a result, there's a lot of .uk domains, and as a result, the UK tends to think of .co.uk and .uk as belonging to the UK in the way that other countries don't. So as a result of that, there's a lot. There's over 10 million domains, and the majority of them are renewed every year, and as a result of that, there's a hell of a lot of money. And then once people realize there's a lot of money, things tend to change. So that's how I would sum it up. So the goal with this current board is to be as open and transparent as we can on where that money is going and how it's decided, and then to say, right, the excess funds that are going to come, what should we spend it on? What should we do with it? Rather than that's been a little bit loose in the past, and so people have spent it on what they think they should spend it on, rather than what I imagine the internet community believes it should have been spent on. Is that clear? It's not too much couched in
doesn't really
diplomatic
answer
language.
my question in any way.
Okay,
but there's a lot of people who will clearly tell me over beer.
The best example, which is the famous example, is the previous CEO decided that he wanted to get into up-and-coming, new, exciting businesses, including cyber security, and went and bought a company in Silicon Valley, set up a Silicon Valley company, bought a company called Cyglass, spent a lot of money on it, and it never turned a profit, and it was sold off for £1. That's the best example
that's fair.
of where it went wrong.
Anyway, so questions from the wider audience. What DNS security techniques and practices and tools is Nominet developing and or reselling, which was mentioned on one of your slides?
I am not the right guy for that, but I tell you what, the thing that I find most exciting is that Nominet is doing what's called PDNS, which is working on sort of national levels, in which it's basically filtering major issues. Something pops up, if there's some malware, if there's some spyware coming through, it's on a sort of government level, it is allowing that stuff to be blocked, and had a couple of big wins. You know, there was the solar winds that went through. Did people track this? That was a big win in the terms of, like, Nominet's PDNS picked that up and cut it out from it basically propagating in the UK. So that's one of the things that Nominet is doing. It's also doing that in Australia, and it's looking to do it in other countries too. So there's a sort of a focus on how do we make this work better, what are the things that need to improve going forward, and how do we focus on it.
Cool. Thank you. There is, does changing the Articles of Constitution change future contracts or mandates from UK government that have been given to Nominet?
No.
Okay. Fair enough. What else we got? Given public benefit, does Nominet get, i.e. understand, open source, and is it ready to support and contribute to the open source ecosystem and projects that relate to Nominet tech innovation and service delivery?
Good question. And I think we're talking get in the technical sense. Like, do you get it?
Yeah. Are you on board with open source?
That's a hard thing for me to know, because I'm not on the tech team. But I do know, I know a couple of the tech people, and they grasp it. I mean, no one can be in internet infrastructure and not grasp open source, can they? Have you met anybody that doesn't get it?
Yeah.
But the question is that leading up to the board level and the board understanding the essential aspect of open source in the internet? I'd say probably not. So I'd like to see more of that. And I think by funding open source projects, which hopefully we'll start doing, then that will filter through and become part of the culture. Because the internet without open source it's not the internet, is it?
Fair enough. And I believe, let me just check, there aren't any since I've stood up here. No, that is the extent of the round of questions. Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.